A brother told his 9-year-old sister to wait for him. "Just wait here," he said. "I'll be back in 10 minutes. He had a stomach ache and needed to run home. When he returned to the spot where he'd left his sister, she was gone. 3 hours later, their mother would find her daughter's body in an abandoned house and would be forced to confront a level of evil that to this day defies comprehension. This is the case of Ang Mei Hong. April 12, 1987. It was an ordinary Sunday morning in Jalan Ipoh, a busy neighborhood in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Two siblings, 11-year-old Ang Yo Tian and his 9-year-old sister Ang Mei Hong, left their home together around 8:30 in the morning. They were walking to buy kuih lapis, a colorful layered steamed cake that was Mei Hong's favorite, to bring home for breakfast. It was actually Mei Hong's first time accompanying her brother on this errand. They headed to the stall where the family usually bought the cake, but when they arrived, they found it was closed that day. So the siblings walked further, headed toward a nearby market to find another place to buy it. As they walked, Yo Tian suddenly felt a sharp pain in his stomach. He needed to use the bathroom urgently. He told Mei Hong to stay put and wait for him outside a block of flats on Jalan Tun Razak, not far from their home. He would run back, use the bathroom, and return in just a few minutes. Mei Hong agreed to wait. 10 minutes later, Yo Tian returned, but Mei Hong was nowhere to be found. Panic set in. Yo Tian searched the area, calling his sister's name. He desperately rushed around, asking if anyone had seen her. No one had. He ran home and told his parents. Immediately, the entire family mobilized. A 37-year-old Ang Seng-hu and his 38-year-old wife, Yong Yok-chin, joined the search. Neighbors came to help. Everyone in the area began looking for the missing girl. For 3 hours, they searched desperately, growing more frightened with each passing minute. The search led them to a desolate area, only about 70 meters from their home. There stood an empty 3-story house, abandoned and known locally as a gathering place for drug addicts. It was not somewhere parents wanted their children to be anywhere near. Yok-chin entered the empty house, and what she found inside would destroy her family forever. Her daughter's body lay on the floor inside one of the rooms. Mei Hong was naked, lying in a pool of blood. Her eyes were still open. A wire was tightly wrapped around her neck. Bruises covered her small body, injuries believed to have been caused by blows from a hard object. Bite marks. Numerous bite marks were visible on her neck, chest, body, and private parts. And then there was a wooden stick. A piece of wood, approximately 36 inches long, studded with 3 nails and an extra piece of metal, had been forced into her body. Her mother's screams brought others running. The father rushed his daughter to Kuala Lumpur General Hospital, but it was too late. Doctors confirmed that she was already dead. Police were called to the scene immediately, but by the time investigators arrived, a crowd of curious onlookers had already gathered at the abandoned house. According to the deputy director of the Royal Malaysia Police Forensics Division, this proved devastating to the investigation. It was likely that crucial evidence at the crime scene had been contaminated or destroyed by the crowd before officers could properly document and collect it. The following day, the medical examination revealed the full extent of what had happened to Mei Hong. She had been strangled to death, but before that, she had been raped and sodomized. As for the wooden stick with the nails found at the crime scene, it was discovered that at least 18 inches of it had penetrated through her, rupturing her internal organs and piercing all the way to her heart. Forensic experts made another disturbing discovery. There were at least 8 different sets of teeth marks found on Mei Hong's body. 8 people had bitten this child during the assault. The implication was chilling. Mei Hong had been attacked by a group, not a single perpetrator. The autopsy also revealed that Mei Hong might have bitten one of her attackers before she died. A small act of resistance from a terrified child fighting for her life. Police classified the case as a murder, which carries the death penalty in Malaysia. They began gathering what little evidence remained from the compromised crime scene and started interviewing potential witnesses. The crime had occurred in broad daylight in a populated area. Investigators believed there might have been witnesses. Police theorized the perpetrators were likely drug addicts who frequented the abandoned house. One description emerged of a Chinese man who could speak Tamil, a South Indian language, though this was based on unverified reports. The Royal Malaysia Police publicly appealed for witnesses to come forward with crucial information. Investigators also did not dismiss another possibility, that the perpetrators might have known Mei Hong personally. After all, Mei Hong's father ran Sang Hyong, a restaurant in the neighborhood that served bakute, the traditional herbal pork rib soup that's popular throughout Malaysia and Singapore. Within days, 3 suspects were arrested. 2 were reportedly drug addicts. 1 matched the description that had been circulated. Another was a longtime customer of Sang Hu's bakute restaurant, someone the family knew. Police took dental impressions from all 3 suspects. These impressions were made into plaster dentures and compared to the bite marks on Mei Hong's body. This was a crucial forensic technique. If the imprints matched, it would prove that they had bitten the child. However, none of the 3 suspects' dental profiles matched the bite marks on her body. Without this physical evidence connecting them to the crime, and without any witnesses or other evidence, the police were forced to release all 3 men. The investigation had hit its first major obstacle. The real killers were still out there. Over the following months and years, the investigation continued. In total, more than 40 men were arrested or called in for questioning in connection with Mei Hong's murder. Every single one was eventually released. None were ever charged. Police were further hindered due to the lack of advanced DNA testing and forensic technology available in 1987. Evidence that may have been definitive with modern technology could not be properly analyzed. And the contamination of the crime scene by onlookers had already ruined precious physical evidence that could never be recovered. Ang Mei Hong was born around 1978. At the time of her death, she was a 3rd grade student at Konam Primary School in Setapak, a suburb in Kuala Lumpur. She was the 2nd oldest of 7 children with 3 brothers and 3 sisters. By all accounts, Mei Hong was a quiet, well-behaved girl. She did well in school, reportedly getting quite good grades. Teachers and family described her as obedient and responsible. She was not the type to wander off or disobey instructions. Her family was not wealthy, but they worked hard, and they lived in a tight-knit community where everyone knew everyone. On that Sunday morning, Mei Hong had been doing something simple and routine, going with her brother to buy her favorite cake for breakfast. It was the kind of ordinary activity children across Malaysia did every day. There was no reason to think anything could go wrong. But in the 10 minutes her brother was gone, someone or multiple people took her. They brought her to that abandoned house, and there they did unspeakable things to her. News of Mei Hong's rape and murder spread rapidly through Kuala Lumpur and across Malaysia. The brutality of the crime shocked the nation. Parents across the country became fearful. Many families stopped allowing their children to go outdoors alone. In the area where Mei Hong lived, parents began personally escorting their children to and from school, unwilling to take any chances. The public response was immediate and emotional. Charity events were organized across the country to raise reward money for information leading to the killer's capture. The initial reward of 10,000 ringgits, approximately $4,000 at the time, was eventually doubled to 20,000 ringgits, or about $8,000. This was a substantial sum in Malaysia in 1987. More than 100 people gathered outside Ang Sang-hoo's restaurant to show support and protest against the sexual assault of minors. They held signs. One banner bore the message, "Justice for Ang Mei Hong." They called for better protection for children and women. During the gathering, a stage play was performed to illustrate the dangers of sexual predators, an early form of public awareness campaigning. An elderly fisherman, moved by sympathy, even engaged a religious master to conduct rituals in an attempt to help find Mei Hong's killers. The community was determined to get justice using any method they could. After the autopsy, Mei Hong's body was released to her family for burial. Her parents faced a heartbreaking decision about how to dress their daughter. According to Chinese folk tradition, dressing a murder victim in red can allow their spirit to return as a vengeful ghost to haunt their killers. The belief is that red clothing binds the victim's soul to the mortal world, enabling them to seek justice from beyond the grave. Sang-hoo and Yok-chin initially considered this. They wanted their daughter's killers to suffer. But ultimately, they decided against it. They worried that if Mei Hong became a vengeful ghost, she would never be able to rest in peace. Their daughter had suffered enough in life. They did not want her spirit to be restless in death. Instead, they dressed her in her favorite blue pajamas, clothes she had loved, and laid her to rest. Her mother, kneeling beside the body, applied makeup to her daughter's face one final time, while tears streamed down her cheeks. Her relatives could barely hold themselves together. Then something unexpected happened. In the weeks following Mei Hong's murder, a local Chinese language newspaper called Xinming Daily received a series of strange letters. The sender remained anonymous, but his words were shocking. He claimed to be one of the men responsible for killing Mei Hong. The handwriting was crude, as if the writer had been written with their left hand to disguise their true penmanship. Each letter was signed simply "Killer." In the first letter, the writer confessed that he was part of a group of drug addicts who had attacked several young girls before Mei Hong. They would rape these children, he wrote, then kill them. Mei Hong was just their most recent victim. The letter provided details that seemed credible, details that only someone involved should know. The writer also made another chilling claim. When the police arrived to investigate, he had been present at the crime scene, watching from within the crowd. He said he had considered surrendering himself at that moment, but he was afraid. When police were asked about the letters, they stated that appropriate action would be taken if the killer surrendered himself. The second and third letters revealed more about the writer's nature. He stated he felt remorse and he was willing to surrender, but only if certain conditions were fulfilled. He wanted forgiveness from the public. "I know the world will curse me," he wrote. "I know no one will forgive me. But if the world is willing to forgive me, I will come forward. I am in pain. I don't want to kill any more children." He proposed that the public organize a collection, providing 1 ringgit per person to raise 30,000 ringgits as a settlement fee for his family. This demand for money sparked immediate public backlash. A killer asking to be paid to turn himself in, the audacity was stunning. In another letter, the writer issued a threat. If his conditions were not met, and if his drug addiction flared up again, he could not guarantee he wouldn't do the same thing to another child. Then came a fourth letter. This time, the writer claimed he had lied about everything. He was not involved in Mei Hong's murder. He had written the letters, he claimed, purely out of frustration with one newspaper's repeated coverage of the case. He felt they had sensationalized the tragedy. After this final letter, no more arrived, and even with the help of the police, the writer couldn't be tracked down. Whether he was truly one of the killers who lost his nerve, or simply a disturbed person exploiting tragedy for attention, remains unknown to this day. Despite setbacks, police continued investigating. The reward money, which remained available indefinitely until the killers were caught, failed to yield any useful leads. Whenever cases of sexual violence occurred in Malaysia in the following months and years, police would investigate whether suspects might be connected to Mei Hong's murder. They would check dental profiles against the bite marks. They would interview suspects about their whereabouts on April 12, 1987. In September 1987, just 5 months after Mei Hong's death, 21-year-old Fong Kim Ki was raped and murdered. The manner of her death showed similarities to Mei Hong's case. The way the victim was sexually assaulted and killed bore disturbing parallels. Police suspected the same perpetrator or group might be responsible, but without concrete evidence, they could not prove a connection. The investigation began to grow cold. Months passed without new leads, then years. For Sang-Hu and Yok-Chin, life after Mei Hong's death was unbearably difficult. They had lost their daughter in the most horrific way imaginable. Sang-Hu continued operating his Bakute restaurant, working every day within sight of where his daughter's body had been found. Then, on August 16, 1988, 16 months after Mei Hong's death, tragedy struck the family again. Yo Tian, the brother who had last seen Mei Hong alive, died from liver disease. He was only 12 years old. The loss of their eldest son so soon after losing their daughter devastated the parents. In less than 2 years, their family of 9 had become a family of just 7. By the early 1990s, Mei Hong's case had officially gone cold. Active investigation ceased, though the case remained open. Police stated they had not given up, but without any new evidence or witnesses, there was little they could do. The unclaimed reward money sat untouched. Since the money had failed to lead to his daughter's killers, Sang-Hu decided to donate it to local schools. Keeping it serves no purpose anymore, he said. 20 years after Mei Hong's death, in 2007, 8-year-old Nurin Jaslin disappeared in Malaysia and was later found murdered in disturbingly similar circumstances. The case drew immediate comparisons to Mei Hong's murder. Journalists sought out Mei Hong's parents to interview them. Sang-Hu and Yok-Chin said they still hoped for justice, but they had learned to leave it to fate. Time had helped them cope with their sadness, though, of course, the pain of losing Mei Hong had never fully disappeared. The family had moved their restaurant to a new location several years after the murder, but they were still in the same business, still selling bakute, still working hard. Yok-Chin admitted that as the years passed, the police had contacted them less and less frequently with updates. Eventually, the updates stopped entirely. The family stopped asking, and they had no choice but to move on. Police confirmed in 2007 that Mei Hong's case remained open, and they were continuing to investigate it alongside other cold cases, hoping that new evidence or advancing forensic technology might one day provide a breakthrough. Criminal psychologist Lo Kian-heng analyzed the case based on the method of killing. He concluded the perpetrators could be categorized as having either a deviant psychological condition or a revenge motive. Deviant criminals, he noted, inflict pain on victims without restraint, deriving satisfaction from the suffering they cause. Somewhere out there, Mei Hong's killers had lived their lives for decades without any outward expression of remorse. Perhaps they felt none at all. More than 38 years have passed since April 12, 1987. Yet, the fundamental question remains unanswered. Who killed Ang Mei Hong? Based on the bite marks on her body, the evidence suggested at the presence of at least 8 attackers. Were they drug addicts, as the anonymous letter writer claimed? Did they know Mei Hong personally, as the police suspected was possible? Was the letter writer one of the actual killers? His initial letters contained details that seemed credible. His later retraction could have been an attempt to back away after realizing he'd said too much. Or he could have been exactly what he claimed in the end, a disturbed individual exploiting a tragedy. What if curious onlookers had not contaminated the crime scene? What if today's DNA technology had been available at the time of the investigation? Would her case have been solved? We will never know. What is most haunting is that her killers are potentially still out there. If they were young men in 1987, they would be in their 50s, 60s, or maybe older now. One can only hope that they will one day face justice for this horrific crime. Mei Hong deserved so much better. She deserved to grow up. She deserved to walk safely around her own neighborhood. And she deserved justice after her death. And she received none of these things. The case remains open. If you have any information about the murder of Ang Mei Hong, the Royal Malaysia Police can still be contacted. Thank you for watching.